Welcome to the Dirty Question with Dee D, where we clean up the controversy one question at a time.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Dirty Question with Dee D. Our first question is,
when it comes to heterosexual relationships, should women submit to men?
We went to these internet streets to get some answers.
No, women should not be submissive towards men. We're used to authority figures as kids and assume we need it in adulthood because kids and women are put into similar categories. That is a lie. What qualifies men as a group to be the best source of protection and to know best at all times? What qualifies them? And let's try to answer that question without sounding like a misogynist. The reality is, once we become adults, we are perfectly capable of making sound choices for our lives. Once we become adults, we are perfectly capable of protecting ourselves. If we are not capable of protecting ourselves or having the best decisions for our lives, what makes men the default to stand in that space?
A woman needs to be submissive to her husband or partner for a relationship to work. It doesn't matter if your man is not financially stable. You chose that man for a reason. So it's a duty to honor and respect your man, irrespective of what he brings to the table.
Do women have to submit to their man? Let's talk about it. They do. It says in the Bible, submit to your man as the church submits to the Christ. And ladies, it says submit completely. For example, if you submit to Christ, you're not going to submit halfway. So when you do not submit to your man, you're not only disobeying your man, but your Lord.
When I study our grandparents, they were not submissive because the other party was stronger than them, because the other party was richer, was wealthier. They submitted because of queen-like behavior. She's a queen. She understands I'm a queen and I need to have a king.
The thing about submission itself is that it has a really convoluted understanding. Your man that you quote unquote submit to, willful cooperation, you willfully cooperate with him, he has to have something bigger than himself. That is the goal. And some people break it down to religion, like that's fabulous, but I know for my relationship, my husband is not a believer, but he believes in the greater good of humanity and society, so he's always trying to do good in the world, so I don't have to worry about him going mad with power. And that's also a weird narrative that women come up with. They're like, well, what's gonna happen if you give a man power? Like, they gave us Wi-Fi and air conditioning. I think they're doing great with power.
Here's two questions that men that talk like this never answer. Number one, why do y'all talk about women like they're property? Like they're broken and unbroken horses. You can ride that horse over there, it's submissive. Oh, don't fuck with that horse over there, it's not submissive. And secondly, and the question that probably should come up every time y'all do this is, who in the fuck are you to be submitted to in the first place?
When it comes to the word submission, what definition of the word are people using? Let's check in with Definition Deborah, our AI librarian, to hear what the dictionary has to say.
The Oxford Dictionary defines submission as the act of accepting that a superior force has defeated you and that you must obey them. In other terms, it is accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person. The operative word here is superior. In psychology, submission is defined as compliance with or surrender to the requests, demands, or will of others.
If you're still cringing at this whole idea, let me explain to you what healthy submission looks like. So the first main reason why a lot of women are against it is because they think that being submissive is only beneficial for the man. In reality, the woman also benefits from that dynamic because it means she is free from making the difficult, stressful decisions in the relationship.
When we talk about the definition of submission, a lot of people try to skirt the issue and change it around so that it doesn't sound like it's oppressive and that it was naturally ordained by nature itself. But when we look at the sociological definition, when we look at the psychological definition, and when we look at the everyday definition of submission, we see words like subdued, docile, malleable, yielding, compliant, acquiescent, manageable, unassertive, passive, obedient. So I think that people are afraid to address what they're really saying when they're saying that women need to be submissive. If they're saying that it's not about oppression, why are they only choosing women to be the submissive party?
When you talk to people who support the idea of women being submissive to men, there's always a sanitizing wipe applied to the definition of the word submit. People say it does not mean a woman has to do everything a man says. It just means she trusts in his leadership, that she trusts his vision. One TikToker had this to say about the definition of a submissive woman.
A submissive woman is a powerful, independent woman that knows her worth and her value and decided to drop her mantle for her man, understanding that there can be no two captains in one ship.
So, even when you strip away the gymnastic rebranding of the word, being submissive always means that women are second and men are first. And by virtue of having a penis, men get to be in charge.
Submission from a woman. It's something that a lot of men in the manosphere talk about, that they want submissive women. And I say it even myself, that a submissive woman is very attractive.
Black men especially ask for women to submit. But these black men don't seem to be able to see the hypocrisy in their request. If white men were to ask black men to submit, to be docile, to comply, to just say, yes sir boss, in everyday encounters, would black men just nod their heads and say, okay, I can roll with that?
Someone that's physically stronger isn't automatically a better leader, because they may lack social skills, they may lack problem-solving skills, they may lack self-regulating skills. So someone who can physically overpower someone else, as in men versus women, that doesn't automatically mean that you need to submit to them. Because when you make it about someone's physical strength, then you have to look at what you're saying. Because this man can overpower the woman that he's with, then he should be the leader.
The reason that you must be submissive is because everyone has their roles, and the roles don't come out of thin air. The roles come directly out of biology. And let me show you why you are submissive. If I was there right now, I could make you submit. You ain't even got to take the option. I'll make you submit. And here's the difference. You can never flip the script and make me submit. You are designed weaker. You shall be dominated.
How does that really look?
If women submitting to men is about being strong, being able to provide and protect, then do men automatically lose their leadership status when they fall victim to a chronic illness? If a man gets cancer and is bedridden for months on end, does he suddenly lose his status as head of the household? And does his woman no longer need to show him submission? That's not the rule. He doesn't lose his mantle. And this proves that this whole submission demand isn't about strength or the ability to provide. It's about male dominance over women.
God revealed to me the reason why women were told to submit to men. They were not told to submit to men because they are weak. Women, you are told to submit to men because you are really strong.
Requiring women to be submissive to men is a direct product of oppression, namely male supremacy. Like all oppression, support for the exploitation is rooted in all societal institutions, especially in the legal system, natural science, and religion. So, we make laws that relegate women to second-class citizenship. We make pseudoscientific claims that say women are naturally and biologically inferior to men. And we follow holy books that explicitly regard women as property and unequal to anyone with a penis. So, people in the 21st century who still insist upon female submission to men are simply parroting the institutional misogyny that has been handed down throughout the centuries.
When we talk about submission, we have to talk about women who choose to submit because they feel like they're going to get protection and perks from patriarchy. Now, first off, patriarchy doesn't ever benefit women. It only benefits men, and it also hurts men. But back to the perks that women believe they get when they submit to patriarchy and when they submit to men, their partners, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, any man in their lives. It's called patriarchal bargain. Patriarchal bargain is when women submit to the ideals of patriarchy because they feel like in exchange they're going to get some kind of return. That's like white supremacy with black people who submit to white supremacy because they feel like there's going to be some type of exchange, so they get benefits from it. Like they wouldn't get, let's just say, white privilege, but they would get something that is adjacent to white privilege in their eyes. And with women, they would feel like they would get something that is adjacent to the perks of patriarchy in their eyes.
We also think it tends to be about the woman not being allowed to do certain things and having no say. A lot of the time, the woman just chooses to trust her man because if she's super career driven and making a bunch of decisions at work, she doesn't want that same energy in the relationship.
Everything that men and women see as feminine is associated with benevolently sexist behaviors. So, seeing women as feminine because they're demure, because they're caretakers, because they're subservient, because they don't talk back to their men, because they take care of the children in the household. All those things that view women as more attractive because they do those things are under benevolent sexism. And they're all inherently oppressive to women. Those behaviors where they're only seen as feminine if they possess those behaviors are oppressive because it doesn't allow women to perform outside of those parameters and be seen as feminine and attractive. She's seen as of lesser value because she's seen as masculine.
Me being a black conservative has nothing to do with my dating choices as it pertains to race. Of course, I'd date a black woman if I met one who was willing to submit and to obey her man like the good book says, and one who would gladly fix my plate at the family reunion without giving me any lip about it. You know any sisters like that?
Fixing your man's plate is not a bad thing. I enjoy fixing my husband's plate, at home and at family get-togethers. Without hesitation and with no exceptions. For me, the husband comes first, before anything and anyone, including our children. My husband, I can proudly say, is my life.
If you ever scroll through Black Twitter, you will probably find this subtopic of the question, should women submit? And that subtopic is, should women fix her man's plate? The sheer number of threads and think pieces dedicated to this subject is staggering, and some respondents treat not fixing the man's plate like a war crime. So why are black people especially fixated on the plate fix? It's because fixing the man's plate is a readily recognizable display of female submission that all can see. It's similar to the recognizable display of white supremacy when black people were required to step off the sidewalk whenever white people were approaching from the opposite direction. Without words or fanfare, these actions clearly signal who's on top and who's not. Now, no one is saying that women should never fix her man's plate as an act of kindness. But where are the thousands of threads asking for men to do the same? This unilateral targeting means This is a service demanded of women and not men. And what about the ridicule some women get when they don't fix their man's plate? Shaming women for opting out of the plate fix reinforces male supremacy and is used to put women in their quote-unquote rightful place.
I'm too busy trying to save the world to be worried about fixing some man a plate who can fix it his damn self. Now, excuse me.
Now it's time for the cleanup. Submission is just another way of saying your man is the boss because he has a penis. Your man is the leader because he has a penis. You don't have a penis, so you can never be the boss and you can never lead him.
Here's my cleanup on the dirty question of should women submit to men. I think men should stop asking women for submission. Women have a right to determine their own lives just as men do. When men demand that women should obey them just because they are men, it shows that they are ego-driven, self-centered, and controlling. It's time to retire the word submission and instead use a more equitable term, deference. Deference just means that if we have a mate that has a strong skill set in a certain area, then we defer to their expertise and judgment. It doesn't mean they have an ironclad veto on what to do. It just means that this is their wheelhouse and they probably know better. But everything is up for discussion and negotiation. Asking for submission is just another form of oppression. Ultimately, it means someone has veto power, and giving that power to a man just because he has a penis is just misogyny, dressed up as a benevolent dictator.
Please like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss our next episode. See you next time.